welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera, and I'm joined, as always, by my two unequaled co-hosts, Katie.
Hi.
And Livy.
Hi.
Why did you say what? You're just unequaled.
I thought you were saying unequal.
No.
I didn't know what you meant.
That's right. That's how it is.
We are doing our Hermes Mailbag.
But it's still called that.
It's always going to be called
I think when we
that.
originally called it that, we were like, until we come up with something better. And
No.
we never did.
No.
And yeah, so like I said, I was very happy that he wasn't one of the gods that was killed off.
That's
so
right.
we could
So-
still have the mailbag
Woo.
named after him.
Hermes forever.
Yay! We have a lot of questions to get to, but before that, we are joined by a special guest.
Hello.
Oh my God.
Hi.
Do you remember me?
It's been a hot minute, Alanis. How have you been?
It's been a really nice year.
Has it?
I've been enjoying myself.
Wow. I thought you would go back to that rageful, jagged little pill era.
No, I'm past that.
You're still, yes, okay. Great. We're so happy for you that you're at peace right now with everything. Why don't you do what you're here for?
You got it. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Nemo. Thank you, Shankari. Thank you, all our listeners. You know we love you. Thank you, Karen Ben, singer of the Cutthroat Nation.
Woo! Oh, Alanis, we
Oh my
have just
gosh.
missed these dulcet tones.
Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you to our patrons. We love you.
Thank you so much. So one other thing is our schedule.
Schedule.
Yes.
It's my favorite month. Spooky October.
Okay.
I'm excited about it.
We don't mean just scheduling in general. We mean our podcast
Yes.
schedule.
Yes.
We don't care about your October plan.
Like when you have your snacks.
Well, they affect our podcast schedule.
That's true. That's true. It is a difficult month for us to get our shit together.
Whee!
So we are going to be on hiatus until when? November 1st.
No.
November 5th.
November 5th.
Which is a Monday. We'll return on that
Remember,
Monday.
remember.
The 5th of December. No.
5th of November.
Vera, Jesus. So yeah, we'll be back with Coming Home.
Right.
Woohoo!
We're going to be
Season
wearing
6.
our V for Vendetta masks while recording that.
No, but yeah, season 6. We gotta take a pause and get our stuff together to dive into season 6. Like, oh my God, I am very excited. I am very frightened.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it.
And I also feel like, we one of the themes of the questions we received from you was a general, fear of the podcast ending. So I'm sure you guys are sad when we go on hiatus, but at least it means that you're going to have Xena Warrior Podcast doing its thing for that much longer as we get our bearings.
Yeah,
And just
maybe
drag it out.
depends on how long this mailbag goes. Maybe there'll be 17 episodes of mailbag in
That's
between.
true.
You guys, you always come through for us. We love that when we are anxious, being like, oh my God, what if we don't get enough questions? We always get just so many questions. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for just bombarding us with all your thoughts. So it's possible that this is actually going to be a double mailbag because we got so many responses. So many things to talk about, so much to get through.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, wait. Before we get to all of the questions,
Oh my God, this really is going to be a double mailbag.
I
Yes.
believe we promised more arcing season 5 thoughts.
That's right.
To wrap up this season.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to do that because motherhood was so long.
So we finished season 5. It is over.
Woo!
There are questions about it, so more thoughts
Yeah,
will
we'll
come up.
definitely
But just,
get into it. But certainly one of the things we always do when we finish a season is we talk about our favorite episodes
Oh, yes.
and our least favorite episodes. So, you guys.
Favorite of season 5? Oh my god, what are they now?
Yeah, I don't remember
Holy
them.
shit.
Well,
Fish sticks.
certainly,
Fish sticks, of course.
I would say, honestly, like, for me personally, kind of separate from the quality of the episodes themselves, it's a tie between Fish Sticks and Them Bones, which were both big episodes for Xena Warrior Podcast. Them Bones was our first and last live show, and that was a big deal. And that's actually a really great episode of Xena. I think we really appreciated it in the prep for the live show, just how much fun it is.
Yeah.
And Fish Sticks is just a really important one for Xena Warrior Podcast, because basically since we started the podcast, we've been anticipating doing it and like making our argument about it and trying to change people's minds about it. And we're so thankful to the several of you who put into your letters that went in the mailbag that we helped you see Fish Sticks a little differently. That made our day, because that really was one of our goals in doing the podcast.
Yeah, those are definitely 2 episodes that are like very special for us, the podcast people. I don't know if maybe like you want to go like just in general.
Yeah, I mean,
those are very specific
in
emotions.
general, like motherhood's amazing.
Yes.
I think we can all agree that motherhood, in terms of quality, it's kind of hard to top this season. I mean, you have Fallen Angel at the beginning, also very good.
Yeah,
very fun.
So it starts really well, ends really well. Yeah.
Then you have sort of like oddball ones. Like I still really love Steve Sears' final episode, Succession. I think that one's pretty cool.
Yep.
Liar.
Oh no. Okay, wait. Are we going into least favorites now?
Yes, I think with Liar Liar.
No, that was my favorite.
Oh dear. Well, least favorite, the China arc.
Of course.
Has to be a low. Yeah. We
I
also hated Little Problems.
Yeah.
That one was rough.
I think the double episodes in China are not only the worst of the season, but the kind of the worst of the whole show.
Yeah.
Like bottom. Rock bottom.
That's rough. Yeah. They really, really suck.
Yeah. Okay.
Vera? None of these episodes have Virgil in them. How could it be?
I will take Virgil over her pregnancy outfit or her...
Oh, animal attraction. I hate that. Oh my god. So many contenders for worst episode.
That's
very few for best.
I'm
That's very
looking up
true.
at the list. We used to have a list of
We don't
season
have-
5, and I
look at
removed
season
it.
6.
And now I know I'm looking at season 6 going, ooh,
My favorite
and none of them are season 5.
Many happy returns.
So yeah, it was rough for a while, and then it got very good.
Yeah, the end is obviously my favorite. So the episodes at the end are a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do feel like this season has been such a journey, because you really went from like Fallen Angel, which felt like the show you knew in season 4, to like a show that you just didn't recognize in those China episodes, and then like coming back around to being Xena again. So I really feel like, wow, like I went through something with this show.
And it's weird because like I feel like personally I distinguish it as like the fallout of season 4, and then the next time I feel like the season really begins is after she has the baby. So it's like with Eve or without Eve, and it's like really bad during the pregnancy arc. Like really bad.
It's rough, right? Because it was not anticipated.
Right.
It was a thing they just had to throw together, and you can tell. So I mean, in terms of like I want to get into like, different character arcs, like kind of examining how the season affected various people, and I think we're going to be able to cover that using the questions that you guys sent in.
Cool.
So let's move on to those.
Okay.
Cool. So our first question is from Amy on Facebook. Can we get a total death count for each leading lady at the end of season 5?
Like death count, like times
How many times they've died?
Not a kill count.
I don't know.
Death
I
count.
thought that's what it was meant, and then you guys were like, no, how many times they've died?
Death count sounds like how many times have they died?
I mean, we could do both.
Amy, we're gonna assume you mean that. Don't worry, William has asked for kill counts. So
Okay.
we'll answer both of your questions. Let's start with deaths.
Well,
Okay.
I had a thought when you started mentioning them bones, because Gabs does have that grief
She sort of
Moment.
does.
She has beat. Wait, what about
So-
Xena? Doesn't she constantly die?
She
to get
kind of
to...
dies in Syntrade. I mean, to pass into the Amazon land of the dead.
Guys, so far it's still a tie.
That would tie if we count both of those. So
If they're still tied.
without those, it's 3 and 3.
Can you break that down?
Yes.
That
Yes, I can. Season 1, we have The Greater Good, and we have Is There a Doctor in the House? So if we're counting those,
We
which
do.
are, you
Both
know,
They
Xena
die.
and Gabs
Xena is
die.
Medically dead.
ish.
Yeah.
Gabs more so because she visits her Uncle Meropes and stuff and comes back with tales of the Elysian Fields.
Right.
Right. That's confusing.
Well, like, cause like on that's she's definitely like because since they were doing ER, like you could hear
Yeah.
the like,
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
and then like
That would have
clear,
been beeping.
you know, like
And then not. And then so Zeta and her, like, whatever that was in The Greater Good, that's 1-1. And then it's not a race.
it is a race.
It is
not a
totally a race. Who's gonna win?
Who's gonna win? And then we have season 2. We have Destiny. That was a definite.
Definite Xena death.
That counts. What else we got?
Might be it for season 2.
for season 2. Yeah.
Season 2, yeah. We got Sacrifice, season 3. But
That's
what
just Gabs.
happened there?
She died-ish.
It
Ish.
happened, and then
She went to the hospice.
and then
that's dead.
We have to watch more show for the fill in the blanks there.
Yeah.
But we'll count it.
We'll count it as a death. It felt like a death.
We have Ides of March, of course.
Where they both die.
Definitely dead.
Definitely dead.
So dead they go to heaven.
And we just said we were going to count Syntrade as a Xena death.
We can count that.
and
sure.
then Bones as
and
the
then
Gabs.
Bones as a Gabs
I've
death.
lost count now.
That's 4 each now.
4 each. Okay, sure.
So by season 5, that's what we got.
Okay.
What about
Fun and exciting.
getting hit in the head with a chakram?
That's not.
She's not dead.
She never
we
quite
don't
died.
know.
I don't think she died
We don't think.
because she resurrected first.
Yes.
When-
Okay.
I really don't think she died.
Yeah, she might have been hanging on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was hanging on.
It was not a mortal blow. Maybe.
Almost, but
I mean, she
no.
would have 1,000% died like a little bit later.
If you just left it.
Yeah, but Eve went first.
Okay, so if
This-
that is indeed what you meant, we have totals of 4 and 4.
Yep.
This also ties in with another question we got from Shankati. She asked, how many times is Xena indirectly or directly caused Gabrielle to die?
Well, 4 because
so all of them are because of Xena.
Yeah.
because they know each other
Yeah.
and that all these things happened. So therefore,
4.
she did them all.
Does Xena die those 4 times because of Gabrielle?
No.
Whoa! Okay, so that's an interesting,
No,
the power
Definitely
dynamic.
doesn't because she's like in
about-
Destiny, the stupid tree that
That's
hits her is
true.
because she's saving a stupid girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not Gabs.
That's not Gabs. So
But
this is interesting.
so, I
Gabs
mean-
always dies for Xena.
Like,
Xena
Callisto.
sometimes dies for
The
Gabs.
question said directly or indirectly.
True.
So if you took out indirectly, then like none.
Okay. Then none times.
But like, because the chakram didn't happen, as we just decided.
Yeah.
So none times or indirectly 4 times.
I'm not sure if there's a judgment
upsetting.
attached to this question.
No, it's
if
not.
It's meant to,
I'm not.
make us think about this relationship, but we love it. We
Yeah.
love that this is a fact.
I just mean,
Kill
like,
her more,
you know,
Xena.
Gabrielle chose to go on adventurings that were dangerous, and these things do happen.
Right, and Xena would be doing some of this stuff regardless of
Right.
Gabrielle's presence in her life. I think that
Exactly.
kind of accounts for that breakdown. Okay, next question comes from Kara Caro. She says, last week you started to talk about the time jump as a way to grow up baby Eve. I think this question came in a few weeks ago. I do
last week.
agree that it is quite resourceful, but obviously jumping 25 years into the future has enormous repercussions. Basically, little is the same to our heroines. The show already told us what happened to Argo and Joxer. And season 6 will show us more about Xena and Gabrielle's closest family and Xenon. That's true.
Question mark. Exclamation point.
But I was always curious about the lives of other characters. Could you each choose one and tell us what they might have done while Xena and Gabrielle lay on ice? It's a cool question.
Well, I don't want to steal anybody's answer because I feel like we were talking about this one. And my favorite one was one that was brought up.
You can take it.
Well, yeah, because we were talking about Autolycus, my fave, who I love.
Who we haven't seen since Takes One to Know One.
Yeah. He's probably dead.
How do you think he died?
I don't know.
On the toilet.
Oh my God.
Like Elvis.
I don't know. But I hope he had fun. Like... I hope he had fun.
I think he would start working as like a
I don't know.
personal security guard for like a king or something.
Maybe he's still out there doing like crazy hijinks and like he would be found later.
But like for
in a
good.
fun way.
He does it for good because
Yeah.
he's learned his lesson that he doesn't steal for himself anymore. He's like Robin Hooding.
Yeah, but like
Okay,
So
well
he does that for a while and then retires. What?
Sure. Or he's dead.
No, I take that back. I don't like it anymore.
I think Salmonius would start a very successful .com business.
Okay.
That's exciting. In antiquities,
yes.
What is a .com business?
It would be like .com is...
What does he do?
I don't know.
He Googles
He
things
creates-
for people.
you know
people
what?
ask
He
him
starts-
questions and he gets the answers.
He starts Amazon. He starts like deliveries.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
Shopping via deliveries.
That sounds amazing.
Yes.
They really need that in the various ancient times.
Yeah. And it's like he can call it Amazon still and be like Amazons.com.
Oh, man, dude.
And then they'd be like, why are you taking our name? And it'd be a whole thing.
Oh, dear. Okay, that sounds like the most boring show ever. Exciting.
Oh, it's a spin-off
Yeah,
show?
it's not supposed to be a spin-off. It's just what
What are
happened
they
to them.
doing? What other characters are there?
Okay, here's mine. Najara.
Ah.
Last we saw her, she was in the mental hospital. I think she'll get out of there, and she's going to start a cult. Like a commune.
Yes.
Cult commune.
Yes.
Najara kind of leading
there.
the way, kind of Colonel Kurtzing it, like killing people, and they kind of worship her.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wait,
She's still doing that 25 years later.
didn't you want to talk about Crab's Woman too?
Oh, yeah. Crab's woman, I think, found a lovely blonde woman
To put salve on her
to
wounds.
put salve on her wounds, and they're
Whoa.
married on like a farm.
Oh, wait, but definitely...
With a lot of animals.
Okay, but we
But
have
no
to...
crabs.
No. I think at a certain point together, holding her other hand that's not wooden, they go to the beach and she faces the crabs. For sure.
Yeah, I think so. She finally forgives the crabs.
Yes.
And that's the end of her character journey. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cara Carroll also requests a 6-hour Rheingold special.
You're going to get that.
So don't worry. Ask and ye shall receive.
I don't see how it won't be longer than that.
An 8-hour Rheingold special.
When you add up the extra time over the 2 hours for each episode in the Rheingold trilogy. Yes, it will be 7, probably. Just say it as well.
Kara was also a fish sticks convert.
Yes, we're so happy, Cara, that you dig fish sticks a little bit more thanks to us.
Yay.
Yay, fish stick.
Katie, you can take the next question.
Okay. Adam asks, thoughts on George Stratton's alternate storyline / arc ideas for season 5 of Xena. Opinions on whether jettisoning almost everything and everyone due to the 25-year nap benefited or harmed the final season.
So, yeah, George Stratton gave an interview with Chakra magazine about like their breakdown of season 5 and also season 6, it seems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Refresh the memories.
When the bad ones were in charge.
Kurtzman and Orci.
Yes.
The bad ones.
What is it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, okay. So it was like
I'm
this.
trying
Like,
to remember.
It was like an intense, like episode by episode kind of like recap where he would be like, in episode 16 they do this, and in episode like 17 they do that.
What are they?
Well, it was all okay. So the storyline was just totally different, but
It was
slightly
for
different.
if she weren't pregnant. I guess it's so
No, because
confusing
Eve
to me.
exists.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was about how the prophecy of the Twilight, like the Twilight was like their thing. So they did it, and it's like Zeus started the Twilight based on like believing in it, and so he just like killed himself basically, and because of that the gods all like became mortal, but like not, they still had powers, but like anybody could kill them.
Okay.
And then there was this special thing where if they kill each other,
This happened on Hercules?
No, this is Xena, but it sounds exactly like Hercules. Doesn't it sound like Hercules? So if the gods kill each other, they gain the one who dies powers. So like Ares keeps killing all these god wars start happening. So the gods start fighting amongst themselves, and meanwhile Xena like has she's looking for these tablets.
Oh yes.
That will destroy all the gods and Olympus, basically. Like, so these tablets are not hidden in Greece because the gods can't find them. So one is in the Russian steppes and one is in Egypt. So a lot of it has to do with like Rob really wanted to film in Russia. Woohoo! I mean, not in Russia.
I would have loved to see Lucy in a big fur hat.
Yes, it was all so about Luke's. He wanted some new Lukes. Like, yeah, we would have totally been into that whole thing. So they were supposed to go there. There would have been like a crazy episode where they fight, oh my god, Baba Yaga, which is like, I don't even know, like I don't want to imagine.
I think that would have been really cool.
I guess I'm now thinking of Alti, like maybe if it was like that kind of.
I feel like it would be.
But like traditionally she's like, a fugly like hag with like warts on
Remember
her
how
nose.
they always used to call Alti like you bag
Yes!
bones, you hag?
Yes.
That clearly means something different in this universe.
All right. Maybe she could have come back. Maybe they could have brought Alti back and been like, oh,
She
is this
is
woman all?
Baba Yaga.
Yes, exactly, all along.
She goes by many names.
Yes, I would have been into that.
So isn't there a whole plotline in the straightened version where like Xena fights herself?
Okay, so that would be season 6. So like what happens, so she finds these tablets, so she goes to Russia, gets one, she goes to Egypt, they do Antony and Cleopatra, the whole thing.
Okay.
She gets it from there, comes back, goes to Mount Olympus to put them together because she has to do it there.
Okay.
And then like this whole crazy chaos thing happens, and somehow Ares uses like all his collected powers and like sends them to the future. So they just like go through godly means into the future 25 years later. Eve, like they're not after Eve because she's not responsible for their death. It's like these tablets.
This is entirely separate from that
so,
idea.
Okay, so then season 6, it's all about like Rome. So in season 6, Ares would have missed Xena so much that he goes back in time and takes out Xena the Conqueror from the Hercules episode and brings her there. So, like, Eve becomes Livy because she's being raised by this Xena. And also Augustus and stuff like that. So, eventually, Xena has to fight, like, evil Xena from her past. And then, like, dealing with Livia and like trying to reform her and then everybody like, so because her face is clearly known to everyone, wherever they go on their adventures, like doing like Robin Hood type of like good stuff, anybody could attack her because like everybody knows what she looks like, so it's like, oh no, danger. Yeah, Pax Romana is also a thing that happens.
Well, it don't sound so bad.
The last
We
part
would have
is
taken
fun.
it if it was what we got.
Honestly, all the stuff with the tablet sounds to me very like Deathly Hallows. Like, let's just send you on a quest, like arbitrarily, and like, what do these things do? IDK,
Indiana
just
Jones
go
thing.
get them. I guess it's not a bad thing, but it also, like, I get so frustrated with these plots that are so God-based. I mean, that's why I'm frustrated with, like, season 5 as it was, and hearing about all this stuff.
Well, that would have just been season 5, it sounds like. Season 6 would have been back
more
to...
human
And also,
based.
one thing that he did mention that I was kind of into was Gabrielle and all of this, where...
Oh, yeah.
she would have had a arc, and he talked about it kind of like a Luke Skywalker arc, where she would have been like tempted by the dark side,
Yes, please.
Like just like gaining power and like trying to do good, but like also understanding that you have to.
I would love to see Gabs meet Dark Xena from that time. I think that would be so interesting.
Imagine all the fic that would have been birthed.
We know it. That
they exist.
Yeah, they exist. They're good. Yeah, I mean, there are good things about that. I mean, in a way, season 6 doesn't really have, like, an arc. So it's kind of interesting to hear about, like, a long-form plot for it.
Yeah. And some are, like, really, like, I feel like they never really talk about their seasons, except for the season 4.
Yeah, season 4, I feel, and season 3 to a certain extent, too. They really, figured out how to serialize, and then I think they drifted away from that model.
And also they were definitely talking about it as if season 6 was not the last season.
Oh, wow. That's why I was curious, because maybe this is probably part of the questions and stuff, but just you even going like, Gabrielle gets this interesting arc, which is great, because like season 5, my biggest pet peeve with it is that she doesn't. It just really does wrong by her, I think, coming off of season 4.
And that's just such an ultimate, like, that arc is kind of the trajectory, that she starts going in, and you kind of expect it. They kind of touch on it in season 6, but I wouldn't call it, like,
but I feel like they're almost doing,
arc.
They're almost just trying to course correct. Like, the bits of it that you get in season 6 are them being like, oh, finally we have to deal with this stuff that we, like, didn't notice we were doing in season 5.
Yeah.
But they were doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it, but they're not doing it in a careful way.
It wasn't careful because she had to step up because Xena couldn't fight, and it just kind of really, like, messes up her character arc so badly.
Yeah.
I mean, violence had such... had just such power for the character and power on the show. And then you start to just take it for granted. You see her just, like, slitting dudes' throats, and you're like, oh, cool. You're not like, oh, like, that might hurt her in the long term. Like, you literally don't have that thought anymore. You just, like, watch it being like, yeah. Which is definitely a problem.
Uh-oh, do we need a coin?
Sure. I said problem. You're right.
Well, I definitely agree that, like, the Hercules-y sounding stuff is kind of I mean, I like what we have in season 5 at the end. The Conqueror stuff is really rad. I mean, I would have liked to have seen it, but I don't know if I would want that to be, like, if that were to be the arc of that season, and season 6, if it was the last season or not the last season, I would assume then, like, the final showdown is, like,
Xena
versus good Xena versus bad Xena.
Which sounds cool.
Sounds like they did it in the second episode.
Yeah, they had already done it. I think it's one of those things where it's such a high concept idea. Either it would be amazing, like an amazing challenge for Lucy, and like an actual and cool way to, like, do the themes of the show.
I guess.
One more time.
And then on the flip side of that, it does become more of, like, a cut and dry thing. They would have had to have been really careful with it, because I don't really like separating out the two Xenas.
Right.
Like, that's not
so much
the
of
character.
It. Yeah.
So.
And in a way, it does, like, having a dark Xena around allows our Xena, like, to not really deal with, I mean, to only deal with her own dark side via this metaphorical other person versus actually dealing with her own capacity for stuff.
So maybe I don't like it. Oops.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sometimes literalizing an internal conflict makes it not as interesting. So, yeah, that is a good point. What about the second half of Adam's question about whether the 25-year jump harmed or benefited?
Well, considering the last stretch of the season is amazing and the next season is amazing, I say it benefited. I mean, I know it's hard to lose things that are familiar with the show, but I always think that, especially for a show that's been on for 5 years, shows that have been on for a few years, if you do something like that, it injects it with some new life and energy, and I always think it's helpful.
And I think that at that point, I don't know, was it the first to sort of do a time jump like that? Not
Xena
ever.
did it first?
Not ever, but I'm just actually thinking of, like, like BSG did that time jump. That was really cool. Like, Lost did a time jump.
Yeah,
like,
those all come a little later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That became, like, a thing.
It did. And I think it became a thing because people discovered that a time jump was a really good way of, like, rebooting a show in, like, a natural way and, like, creating some mystery. Because, like, what happened in that interim period. I don't think it hurt the show. I mean, obviously it made it so certain touchstones disappeared, like Cyrene and Autolycus and Joxer. But I think that is a good thing for the show. I think, freshening things and like getting new energy in is good. I guess in the long run, when you see that this happens so close to the end of the show, it's not like they really build a new community around Xena and Gabrielle in the last season. They seem a little bit just kind of, it's a very intimate show in that last season. It really is just the two of them. So if you're into that, it's definitely the 25-year benefiting the show, because it really reduces the cast to just Xena and Gabs.
So we're into it.
Yeah. We're cool with it. I mean, we recognize that it, like, it's very sad. It's sad to have all of, this stuff that, like, meant something, especially to Gabrielle, like, her family. And
that's
the
too. Thing. Yeah, well, that's the repercussions of it, which, we'll discuss, obviously, when we get there in season 6. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, we totally, I just realized, forgot to do William's question about Xena's kill count.
The kill count!
What is the update? I think IMDb at this point has stopped
IMDb gave up after One Against the Army.
I mean, that must have been like
broke them.
300 people right there.
Sure. And then we have our glorious season 5 episodes in China.
Where Xena kills 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So her count is definitely...
Purposely on purpose.
In the 6 figures. Right?
Yep.
Probably.
Yes, indeed.
Somewhere
that would make it be 6 figures right there with 100,000.
Yeah. So that's that. And then also like 7 gods.
And 7 gods. Yeah, how do you count gods? Is that just like one? Or is that should each of those be like 1,000 people?
Oh. So the kill count that Xena has is a lot.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Let's say 165,000 people. Does that seem right?
Yes.
Well, it was 100,000 in China, or
100,000 men in that army that she completely destroyed.
Yes. How many did we say was One Against the Army?
You just said a lot.
I was like 300,
but it probably wasn't that many.
I don't know.
Like, I don't,
enough men
certainly
to
wasn't
fit
that
in
many
one barn.
Extras.
But they kept dying and getting up again and then getting killed again.
100,362.
Okay. Fair enough.
And 7 gods.
Right. Up to the end of season 5.
Yeah. Glorious.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
That we know about.
Danielle writes, Xena throwing the chakram at Gabrielle made for some really intense scenes and later on some good, if not great, gab dragging, which I am thankful for.
So great.
However, because Xena had already stabbed Eve, was it really necessary to use the chakram? Xena could have just easily backflipped over there and tossed Gabrielle out of the way, or something much more boring. The chakram was major overkill. This has always bothered me. What do you guys think?
Well, I feel like she kind of answered her own question.
Yeah.
Something much more boring.
Because we definitely made our feelings about this scene known. And then I do think that we have gotten some feedback, like just people who don't like it at all.
Oh, okay.
But I am just gonna stay firmly with the idea that other choices are more boring. And the fact that it is overkill is part of the point. And that's what we sort of talked about, I think, when we were talking about the scene, is that it was kind of a cheat that it lets her like get off the hook. It's just this mistake.
If it were thrown through the window.
Yeah, and it's obviously horrible. It's obviously not something that you want to see between two people who love each other deeply and immensely. And part of what is over the top and so dramatic about it is that it's just this... She just threw this. She threw it. She threw the thing. It happened. And
she missed. She was angry she wasn't there in time. I think she wanted to throw the chakram and have it be like saving Eve's life.
Right.
She walks in about to do her thing she always does and sees that moment has already passed.
Exactly.
She missed it.
But just barely. Like, that's the thing about it, is that it is so instinct, and it just, the timing is just so slightly like off. Where it just makes sense. Like, literally, don't forget, her arm is just ready for that chakram. Like, remember how she like even already in the scene reached for it, and it's like it's not there because she's just so used to grabbing it and throwing it, grabbing it and throwing it. She just like her arm has like that memory of doing that, especially for like protecting Eve, which is like her senses are just like on overdrive for that purpose. With these last few episodes, it just made total sense to me for her to see that tableau and just throw it.
Yeah,
just
what was the
'cause.
thing that you said? You said there was a quote where Lucy said something like, she only knew Eve for like 2 minutes or something, and Lucy didn't like that this is how it played out because, like, Xena would never do that to Gabrielle,
Lucy seemed very unhappy with the final product.
I just but it was something to do with like she didn't actually really know Eve.
But
like,
yeah,
and I was like,
I think Lucy may have been stating that kind of facetiously. Because I know she understands that like, her bond to this person, her child, would be very powerful. That's like the point of this season.
What if she saw the knife and the first thing she saw would be Eve screaming, then the knife in her bag, then she throws the chakra without even realizing that it's Gabrielle until too late. You know, like that kind of thing.
And people say, like, you know, she'd already stabbed Eve. That's true. Like, but obviously she could have stabbed her again. She's still under the control of the Furies, which Xena doesn't
she totally would have
realize
stabbed her again.
in
Like
this moment.
100% she would have stabbed her again.
Like you can say, oh, like the chakram thing was unnecessary, but in the end, it is what stops Gabrielle from killing Eve more completely.
Like, right there.
Yeah,
and it stops the Furies from having like their power over her.
I never even like thought about that until you mentioned it in the podcast though, because I thought they just left because they were like, job's done.
Maybe they might have.
I don't know, something about the choice to have her hit in the head, which is sort of where you see the Furies like vanishing into and then like vanishing out of.
Right.
Like it felt connected.
Yeah,
It might have been.
Did Gabs ever know that that's what hit her?
That's the thing. I don't even know. I don't know.
I was wondering about this because it's certainly not addressed. You know what I mean? She's never like, ooh, I'm sorry.
And I think maybe like fans, you know, people who were hurt by this moment it would have helped if it had been more addressed, if it had been something talked about, because it is clearly still a mistake. It's not. It doesn't reflect Xena's feelings for Gabrielle. Gabrielle was under the control of these other people. Like it is this like horrible misunderstanding situation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the feelings need to feel real. And I personally don't see it as over the top or overkill. Like to me, like Gabrielle killed Eve in front of her mother.
Yeah.
Xena sees that happen. She's not quite able to stop it. She throws her chakra. Like to me, that's just such. Those are real feelings that I understand. Like to me, it doesn't feel like, you know, she didn't have to do that. It's like,
right.
I think she did. I don't know. I think she did.
And this show is dramatic in this way, and we have gone through stuff like this in the past.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's just that it is upsetting, but that's what's
it's hard to see the characters in this extreme
interesting
place.
about it.
Yeah,
and that's what I like about it.
I mean, we're obviously here for it. We're here for when Xena and Gabrielle have any kind of conflict.
Yeah,
because conflict is interesting.
That's what is good in television and fictional relationships. Conflict.
It doesn't mean they love each other any less. If anything, it makes them, you know, you see their relationship in this new extreme place where Xena has done this and feels horrible about it and is willing to, like, you know, move heaven and earth, like literally to save Gabrielle's life. So
yeah,
I don't know. I get it. I get how seeing something like that in your OTP makes you go like, what the fuck?
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm like, you know, man, your OTP goes through some shit. It's fun.
And then at the end of the episode, they're like standing there
They're a
arm in arm,
family.
like with this lovely family. It's
Spider, happy times.
It's like 10 minutes later. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I was just amused by the fact that I was thinking about what does Gabrielle think happened to her, because it's so fast paced. The ending, it doesn't actually address
so much
it,
shit happens.
Yeah.
She should be like, oh my god, did I kill Eve? You can be like, no, don't worry.
Anyway, it does not bother us, I think, is the stance.
Yeah, our
I don't
final verdict.
I just love drama.
Yeah.
Okay, so Candace has a question. Or rather, it's not so much a question as, I think, a really important perspective on that last arc.
Okay.
She says, I wanted to say that I kind of feel like Xena is a hypocrite in this season, which it pains me to say. Xena gets pregnant by supernatural methods, just like Gabrielle with Hope, but she is immediately like, oh, but this child is good because I can feel that it is. But she determines that Hope is bad before she's born or shortly after. Then Eve grows up and is murdering entire villages, including women and children, because she's mad at Xena, but it's okay because she can convert her. But Gabrielle was, like, chastised for thinking that she could convert Hope. Hope kills someone, and Xena is like, this child of yours, Gabrielle, must die. Eve murders many people as an adult, and Xena is still actively trying to save her. All I'm saying is that if I was Gabrielle during the season, I would be bitter and angry at these things. I mean, I just completely agree. Yes. And that's why I'm so glad that the whole thing with the Furies and then the chakram to the head happened, because I feel like this is getting back into really important emotional territory for Gabrielle that hadn't been addressed. And yeah, I think Xena's hypocrisy is important. It's important to see, I mean, and we're not really saying hypocrisy like in a judgment way. I think this is like an important aspect of human nature, which is when it's like not your kid, you're able to have that detachment to be like, that kid's evil and you should kill him. But when it's your kid, you're like, no.
Because this is going all the way back to like baby Hope killing that soldier and Xena wanting to throw the baby off a cliff.
Immediately, yeah.
Like, this isn't even getting into the more intense things that happen a little later.
Yeah.
Like, her response to this tiny baby is to please chuck this child
before it's too late
off the cliff.
It's so at odds with the morals of the show, which is that, that people aren't born good and bad. Like, it's about your actions, and like, even if you've done terrible things, like, you have the capacity to change. Like, that's what's frustrating in many ways about the Hope storyline.
Right,
is that
we've
it
talked
flies in the face of that. You're suddenly like, wait, like, your actions, you're allowed to change.
I know. Well, we've talked about it because it is part of the choices in that storyline that are just so overtly, I'm a demon. Hey.
I'm bad. I have eyebrows that go down. I'm a bad person.
So I get it. I get that it's hard to kind of make that leap, but I sort of hate the morality in all these stories. Like, with this one in particular, just kind of doesn't really want to go there with the Hope is half Gabrielle. Okay, so maybe she's a half evil demon baby, but what about the other half?
Yeah.
Like, or
the
whatever.
seed is stronger.
Like,
I'm really glad the abyss exists. It doesn't actually like negate any of these kind of frustrating inequalities.
Are you talking about Abyss, the episode?
Yes, the episode.
Yes,
not the film, not the James Cameron film, or just the abyss that exists in the world.
Yeah.
The general abyss.
The general abyss. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that, like, obviously, like, could all this emotional stuff be addressed better? Yes, of course. But, like, I'm glad that it is a little bit. I can't tell you how thankful I am that Hope appeared in the season finale, and that some of those issues, which had just been subtext, do emerge. You feel like, as Candace says, like, Gabrielle's bitterness and anger about this, injustice, it's kind of there. You feel like it's there, and I think it's great that it is there, because it's just so important.
Yes to all of it. Okay, Eric writes / asks, are we satisfied with Callisto's ending / redemption arc? The cycle of violence was ended through love and forgiveness, which is a major callback to the episode Callisto. After all of the history and violence between Xena and Gabrielle, do we feel this ending to Callisto was written and executed well? Would we have liked to have seen anything else play out with this character? Are we happy about her being Eve and the cycle of violence playing out again? Well, I think we're not 100% happy with, like, Angel Callisto, right?
We talked about this in Fallen Angel. Like, it's weird. It's hard to wrap your head around having any character just kind of have their entire past erased, and that somehow being, like, a great solution to their pain. It's hard to identify with that, I think. But in the end, I do find it kind of fascinating and amazing that, like, she becomes Xena's family. She becomes an angel. She takes Xena's place in heaven and then becomes Xena's kid. And she becomes Xena's family, and Xena becomes hers. And I guess
I love that part of it, and not just, like, the Callisto floating around being nice angel.
Yeah. I mean, they're, like, forever, entwined. They are the chakram, Yeah. I do think it's, like, just really upsetting that ultimately she goes through this whole thing with Michael and, like, the angels and, like, yep, you're going to be born good and all that stuff, and then basically grows up horrible, just like Callisto.
She didn't. Her family was taken away from her.
Yeah, it's sad. Like, it's sad. Like, why does Callisto get this twice?
This is actually a question related to another question that we got from Katie, who asked, Fallen Angel creates the idea Callisto, without Xena killing her family, would have been a peaceful and nonviolent person, a la Angel Doll version of Callisto. But Livia seems to contradict this idea. I guess, how would you reconcile this contradiction? I mean, it's true. Like, Livia is like this clean slate baby version of Callisto.
Eve was.
Yeah,
and
that's
she would have been.
Yeah,
if she was just normally raised
but
by Xena.
She goes to Rome and goes to a prep school, and it's all downhill from there. But yeah, I think a lot of it is that she actually, it's obviously not the same, but her family is taken away just the same way. Yeah, and as Eric says, like, the cycle of violence resumes with Livia because of that,
Who we think killed way more people than actual
Hope.
Callisto.
Oh, than Callisto?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Livia goes around, like, being an actual military person.
That's true. Yeah, and she's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how long Callisto is active, but then she becomes a god and is, like, causing, like, avalanches and earthquakes and stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't want to compare their kill counts. I definitely do have frustrations about Callisto, just in that, like, I feel like the show went a little wrong with her, like, way earlier. Like, I thought her becoming a god was a little bit of a bummer for the character, because I just think she's so human.
Right.
And seeing more of just that human going around and doing things and, like, learning things would have been powerful. And just seeing her more, like, on the same level as Xena, like, in terms of powers. I think as soon as giving her god powers, it just kind of made the playing field messed up in a way that was frustrating as a viewer. Yeah, I do in the end like the ideas. I like that every time you have, like, Grace kind of interfere, being like, you're okay now, you're saved. Something happens to thwart that, because to me that is that's what it's like to be a human, is that even after you're saved, you struggle. And I wanted to see that, I think, reflected more in Livia's storyline.
Yeah.
Which is, like, once she gets that bolt of revelation from Eli, I think it should have still been hard. I think she still grew up in Rome, in this very violent patriarchal society, and those things, even once you've figured out what is right and what is wrong, like, that trauma doesn't disappear.
Right, and that's why she should have been a full-blown character in season 6. Despite us just talking about how, it's so nice, it's just Xena and Gabs.
Yeah.
But she really should have been a part of it, like, fully.
Yeah. I mean, this is, as we talked about in Motherhood, like, it's kind of the frustrating power vacuum that was happening, I think, behind the scenes, where, like, Kurtzman and Orci took it in one direction, and RJ came back and was like, I don't really want to deal with this baby, so how quickly can we write her off the show?
Yeah, and also I don't know when they actually found out that they weren't going to do anymore, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So.
Right, that's a big...
yeah.
I mean, I think behind the scenes, the writers were really listening when they heard that the fans were unhappy with season 5, because it didn't concentrate enough on Xena and Gabrielle and their relationship, which really didn't.
But and that's why it's, like, the worst.
So they removed Eve to help
show.
with that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you wish it didn't have to be either or. Like, why
don't forget how many episodes we had with Joxer there as well.
Right. I think it's very possible to have a hypothetical season 6 that would have had really amazing material for Eve, while also having Xena.
They could have gotten rid of her in, like, I don't know, 7 episodes, not like 3 or 2 or whatever it was.
Well, we're going to get there.
Anyway,
we actually have that coming up as a question. So we leapt ahead. There was one more thing related to Callisto that I wanted to hit on. We had a great series of tweets from Christy on Twitter, where she put forward, I thought, a really cool model for how to look at Callisto, which is going back to the yin-yang. This idea that Callisto and Xena, maybe more so than Xena and Gabrielle, really embody that duality. That you have this, like, seed of goodness in Callisto and this seed of evil in Xena. And, like, putting them up against each other basically complements each other, and they keep like, especially in Fallen Angel, like switching places.
Yeah.
It's like a different way of looking at it in more of like an antagonist way, like antagonists that make a good balance versus like a relationship between two people like, that complement each other.
Yeah, I think for me that's the difference. There's as you say, like antagonism. They like almost repel each other. It would have, in a way, have been really interesting to see Xena and Eve like have that kind of repulsion, magnetism.
All I'm hearing is just like my OTPs all over the place. Yes, repulse each other. Yes.
Whereas in many ways you're right that Xena and Gabrielle, because they go together so well, that's more of that idea, that Taoist idea of the yin yang, that these two forces live side by side, comfortably.
Right.
Yeah, but that's really cool. I'm glad we got that in there.
Cool. What's next?
Or I'll do it because I love this name, Whiskey.
Yeah.
So Whiskey asks, if you came across info in your research about why Ares proposed a baby deal in both Hercules and Xena, I'd love to hear it. Like, why the fuck did it happen on both shows? They had to bring back Herc in season 5 so it could have been mentioned. Why was he baby obsessed?
What?
We haven't seen this Hercules arc where Ares is also looking for a baby.
With who?
I can't help but be like, yeah, with Hercules? Is that what's happening?
Ooh, that would get me to watch Hercules.
Ares has had baby deals much earlier. He had the baby deal with Dayhawk.
Yeah,
right on.
He's all about.
He's been going after this for years.
So we don't know what it was on Hercules.
Nope, and we kind of don't want to find out.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, with Jayhawk as well.
This is his thing. I don't know exactly why. It might be a product of having these feelings for Xena that he doesn't know how to act on. He's sort of pursuing this idea of family and legacy. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a weird dude.
He thinks he has big dick energy.
I mean, Ares' arc this season is one of those things where I'm like, do we love it?
I do.
I think it's like you know how I feel about Ares, and season 5 and 6 is like the only Ares that I'm interested in. So.
Well, it's the best Ares.
Yeah, because he's more than one fucking thing per episode of him being like, Xena, let's do this. And she's like, fuck you. And he's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what happened in Motherhood, you finally see that he's capable of change. Like, we finally really see it.
And he looks normal as well.
It makes sense.
Oh, you like the Luke. You like the short hair.
I'm okay with the Luke.
Short hair is awesome. It makes sort of more sense with the, like, Twilight of the Gods thing. I guess earlier it was just
wanting
more
a
of
legacy.
a legacy thing.
It's unclear why. I mean, I think back in the Dayhawk arc, it was also like, well, the gods might be destroyed by Dayhawk.
That's true. It's all the same. It's
so
all
I need
about
this.
That.
He's always just finding a way to live on.
Yeah.
However it works. That's the baby craziness.
I guess he's doing that on Hercules as well.
I do
trying to
think
get Herc pregnant.
One issue that I wanted to bring up in the mailbag, this isn't specifically related to the question, but I felt it over time that like we tend to like swoon over Ares as
Who does?
I do.
I do.
Maybe Katie does.
Oh god.
Like I love seeing this character who used to be kind of a total antagonist, kind of slowly change under Xena's influence, like becoming sympathetic. Because really, you begin as soon as you see that vulnerability in him, he's sympathetic. You care about him. But I mean, it is also problematic. Because he's been such a dick. He's a dick almost until the very end. He's basically at one point trying to blackmail Xena to have sex with him, which is like huge consent issues.
I have the worst problem with these tropes of the like bad boy stuff because they are a fiction with characters like this, especially like the later Ares. The stuff that you're watching, is positing them as good people at heart. So, like, the stuff that's more problematic, I always was able to hand wave more, but as an adult person, I'm now trying to, like, be more cognizant of that problematic issue. Listen, I like bad boys.
Bad boys are
in the fiction.
Appealing thing, this idea that you can change them, that you can make them see that their behavior is bad. There's a reason people write about this, is that, I mean, it's a comforting fantasy, but it's important to say that it is a fantasy. And it is comforting. So, like, as like, icky as it can sometimes be, like, then they'll serve up a beat where you say, oh, that, you know, people can change. And that's important. So important in a show about literally where that's the thesis statement.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I also like Spike on Buffy.
Right, I mean, it's a very similar idea.
It's a better idea.
Them's fighting words, Vera.
Yeah, we can't just, like, be like, the Aries can't get, like, the same treatment as Xena. You know what I mean?
Good.
Like,
Jesus, imagine if he did.
Well, I mean, it's just, like, you can't be, like, sitting here going, like, oh, he did this one gross thing once, so he's the worst. Like, we're sitting here going, like, Xena threw a chakra at Gabrielle's head. It's fine.
Like, yeah, everybody can change, whether you're a warrior princess or a god of war.
Right.
The next question comes from Rita. Regarding Xena as defender of the faith and slayer of the Olympian gods, since she did kill a bunch of them and help to prepare the way for the rule of the god of love, does that mean that she is in part responsible for the fall of classic culture?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this idea on the show that, like, Xena literally, like, brings modernity.
Yeah.
into That's wild.
It's crazy.
Rita's second question.
Complicated. Yeah.
I get Xena's fascination with a religion that offers redemption and forgiveness for one's sins, although she'll never be able to forgive herself. Too true, too true. But do you think she would go as far as to kill gods so that some other god might take their place? Isn't she just working on her own agenda, keeping her daughter alive? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't she notice a fundamental difference between Eli's first message, humankind not needing gods, and this turn of events in which she's preparing the way for a new divine rule?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
This is some season 6 realness that we'll be getting into. But yeah, I think there is absolutely, like, Xena is acting in motherhood out of necessity. I don't think it's really because of any kind of, I'm sure she feels grateful to Eli for saving her daughter, you know, answering her prayers. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't think she's really actively preparing the way for Eli.
Right.
That isn't what she's thinking as she's killing off these gods.
She for sure is not thinking that.
And she doesn't completely do it, right? She leaves Ares, she leaves Aphrodite. It's an incomplete job. She does only what she needs to do to save Eve.
Exactly. Yeah, I really can't see that just being at all, like, part of her actions, thought process. Like, I know that she's been given this message from Michael and whatnot, but
and she's like, whatever, as long as I save her right now. Like, she's not even thinking about, like, what that actually even means. You know? It's she has a job to do, like, today, and save her.
And I mean, we've talked about this a little bit already, but the way that Christianity is treated on the show does shift a bit. Like, it starts as seeming like this, like, really idyllic solution in many ways to the problems that all the characters on the show face, but it's a lot more complicated than that, and we'll begin to really see that in season 6.
Yeah.
Okay, the third part of Rita's question. In maternal instincts and motherhood, both Gabrielle's and Xena's children get killed. Oh, man. That was some good shit. Both Gabrielle and Xena are involved in each other's children's deaths. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they
Talk dirty to us, Rita.
Jesus. Please.
Add a family affair to that.
Uh-oh.
Yes, please. 3 generations of patricide or matricide or whatever. Amazing.
Porcupine monstercide?
Yeah, porcupine monstercide. What is this show trying to say about maternity and family ties?
It's fucking fascinating.
Those titles, and it's true, the titles are pretty hilarious. Maternal instincts, motherhood, a family affair, in which, like, parents kill children and children kill parents.
Well, they're self-aware, I think.
Well, like, I don't know, that's a very deep question. The first thing that just, like, sprung into my brain about this show being, like, about ancient times is that all of this stuff is just, like, very classic. It's very, again, our favorite words, like, over the top, very, like...
Super drums,
like the classics, you know? Like, and for me, that's what makes it fun. It's just so out of the realm of, like, normal human experience, generally speaking, like these particular scenarios. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's trying to say. I do feel like it can be a little annoying sometimes. Like, I feel like we have commented in the past where some of the ways that they present, like, motherhood can be just kind of...
They're simplistic.
Yeah.
And they definitely kind of play into these sort of, like, kind of regressive ideas that, like, a woman becomes a mother and they're the most powerful, angry force on earth. Nothing can compare. Like, it's a little silly and just hand-wavy in the way that it treats these much more complicated issues. But, I mean, it's. I would love to read the paper, Rita, in which you just go through, like, what is the show in the end trying to say about, like, being a mother? Because, it's certainly any time a character is a mother on this show, it generally is going to lead to a lot of suffering and death. And mothers on the show don't tend to do very well also. We'll see Cyrene's fate in season 6. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think these are just, like, complicated psychological issues. I don't know what Rob Chapert's relationship is with his mother. But I do love, I don't think I'd ever quite noticed how ironic those titles are, especially when taken together. But Maternal Instincts, Motherhood, A Family Affair, it is pretty funny.
And it's like another thing with just how the just general conceit of what the show is, and then you have 2 female leads, and these are really intense plots that you can do. And I feel like the show, like, wanted to do them, and then also is, like, this action show where the way that the show is doesn't really allow for them to have, like, kids running around. So they introduce kids and then can't, like, just have it be like, and now they have kids running around with them. It just doesn't, like, work. So all these, like, really intense plots, by necessity, happen.
It's also fascinating to compare to what I'm assuming was going on in Hercules based on, like, the few episodes I've seen where... Because fatherhood is, like, a thing. He had kids, and they were killed, so he has,
Hera killed them.
Right.
Herself a mother.
Shit. But I think I saw, like, that one episode, right, where he was, like, concerned about having all these bastards everywhere because he's a ladies' man, and he goes around, like, having kids everywhere.
Oh my God, that's an episode?
That sounds kind of good.
I feel like that was, like, a thing where... At least it's brought up, I don't know.
Oh, my God.
I don't know what Hercules would be saying about fatherhood and children, but it would be fascinating to compare it to this.
I would say that, like, if you just want to be, like, really general about it, I think we can all agree that the show is expressing some, I think, really interesting, like, ambivalence about having children and, like, what that means, what that will amount to, which I appreciate because obviously that isn't, family values as usually depicted in the 90s.
True.
So,
are you saying because the child could grow up to be Xena who kills everyone?
Right. That your child will turn out like to be a demon or just a maniac who like murders and drinks the blood of men. That they'll be taken away from you, that you will abandon them. I think the show is dealing with all these nightmare versions of parenthood, which I think it's really important to explore because not, like you look at like the sitcoms from the 90s in which all these perfect family units were running around being a thing. It's kind of fun to have all these broken, busted, horrible, toxic family dynamics on Xena.
I just like drama more. I don't like sitcoms. I would rather the fun stuff. Anyway, well, like it's like, and with season 6 too, it's not like it's just like these shitty situations happened, and now she has this like grown child,
right?
But she's still her mother, and she's still there, so it's still being explored.
It is.
Anyway.
Okay, Andy asks a question kind of related to this. What's the best, most creative way you've seen to cover up an actor's pregnancy on television? Scully's abduction? Major Kira being a surrogate mother on Deep Space Nine? Or just the big coat standing behind filing cabinets thing? How else could the show have dealt with Lucy's pregnancy or gotten rid of the baby?
Oh my gosh.
And did you guys like the time jump solution, which we've already discussed?
I was the time jump solution. I like that the show just went with it because she's the star of the show. She has to do like you have to write it in. I always think that it's awkward because it does affect the storylines. Like in a way that would not have happened had it not been a thing. I'm gonna give it like just a shout out to the mention of the X-Files, only because like that happening in season 2 of the X-Files literally changed television.
What do you mean by that?
I think that the plot line of the X-Files and its like narrative drive was so influenced by her being abducted that then shows hence also started being more intense with the like overarching narratives and stuff. Not that the X-Files wasn't doing it already, but I think that it really was like a driving force with the mythology and the like.
Yeah, the mythology changed entirely because
and it made Scully so central.
And it went,
which maybe wouldn't have happened.
And this happened in she got pregnant in season 1. So like that's basically the whole show was influenced by this, which is fascinating. But yeah, I do think that hers was also the easiest to handle because while we did have a trying period for the Luke.
That was the filing cabinets and coats.
But I was going to say, thankfully, this was early 90s where everyone was just wearing insanely oversized suits and coats and looked terrible. Terrible. Like Mulder's tie is ginormous and goes down to his feet. Like, I don't get it. Like the coats are like 20 sizes too big. It's just awful. So you don't like notice it that bad. I mean, you notice it, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
And then making it part of like the abduction and everything like really helped. My solution is either like something genius like that or just stand behind the stuff.
Just do it. Everybody knows that's what you're doing, but whatever.
It's gonna be.
I think that you can't. Sometimes you just cannot hide it. You just can't do it.
Wow.
Like I think that the better option is to write it in, and I really think that there are showrunners out there who are like really great at this stuff, but they also work on shows where it's like easier to do that, like Shonda Rhimes and Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, like stand behind.
Like
I think
those big characters aren't like doing like flips and kicking people in the face.
Women on television should be afraid to like ruin the plot lines of TV shows by having a baby.
Wait. The best part about Grey's Anatomy is the fact that because it's such a like female like awesome environment to work in and whatever, and has all these like women, and it's been on for so long with these like characters who are on it for a really long time that like you can have one person and they're like, okay, we're gonna write it in, you know, but then somebody else gets pregnant and you're like, what do we do now? Hide her. You know, somebody else gets pregnant and you're like, okay, hiding behind the, you know, like, so it's, that show particularly cycled through many pregnancies.
I just think, and it's just hard. So like some people have done a very, very bad job of this, and you know, I think Xena this season did suffer, but it's not, I think that they did the best that they could, and like I'm very glad they didn't try and hide it, because you cannot do it. And I think it's, you know, like Winona Earp, you can't hide it. That's Winona Earp. She's the star.
I know, but
where's she gonna go? What's she gonna do? Like,
I really loved
spoilers.
That time jump they did to it.
Yeah.
They were trying to hide it, and then they gave up hiding it by like jumping a couple months into the future, and then they were just like, okay, she's really pregnant now, which I appreciated.
I don't know. She was like really small, you know, like, and their insane coats that they wear in general were like so large too that I don't know. That was fine ultimately, but we kind of talked about how that was kind of like Xena Jr. Like the way that they did that.
The big coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have like any other examples of like creative ways to do it. I mean, kind of the frustrating thing about this situation is there, you know, the choices are write this character off the show or hide them, basically.
They did, yeah. And
Julian Anderson thought she was going to be fired. That's not something that you should think is going to happen.
Well, but that was before
You know
this Aaron Spelling trial and that whole thing. So like she could have easily been fired. So that's, you know, she's like a nobody who got pregnant season 1. And Mulder could have easily had a second partner. It's totally a thing that could have happened.
No, that's horrible.
Chris Carter really...
This is a threat women face, when they're on TV.
I don't know if you're allowed... You can't do that anymore.
I really hope not.
Because the Aaron Spelling thing was
right.
You know, you really can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Yes. Victoria on Twitter asks, why did they hand this show over to fucking children? I don't know, Victoria, you tell us.
I was thinking about this. I was like, who should it have been? Like, who would have been a better solution? I was thinking that it should have been Chris Mannheim and Liz Friedman. They should have been
entirely
running.
But I thought Liz was
Liz was on Young Hercules, but
Yeah.
take her off Young Hercules, put her on Xena.
Right. Or couldn't have Steve stayed if that was his sweet deal? You're showrunner now?
That would have been cool. I feel like in many ways Steve's ideas were showrunner ideas. You know,
He went to showrun a show. Clearly that's what he wanted to fucking do.
He had these big picture ideas for Xena. I mean, like, we talked about, like, what he wanted to do with Ares and, you know, kind of triangulating that relationship with Xena and Gabs. And I thought that shit was so cool. I really wanted more of it. Like, Gabrielle and Ares and the way that relationship would evolve.
Yes.
He was doing that in his final episode, and I think if he'd stayed, that would have been an actual plot as opposed to just kind of like a vague thing there in the background.
Yeah, I really think they should have gone at least to Xena people, not
I'm so mad.
fucking Hercules people.
Just Gabs needed that bit of, It was
some of the most interesting stuff in season 5,
Yeah.
and you know, that's the magic of Steve Sears, is like he writes one episode and it casts a shadow. Yeah. Okay. Bakai XV asks, so season 5 was ... trying. What were its biggest issues / oversights in your opinions? If you'd been working on the show, for each of you, what would be the one thing you'd have put your foot down to include / exclude / change? Other than killing Virgil, Vera.
Kill him.
Oh man, I feel like I just kind of was ranting about it like literally 2 seconds ago, which is just, I think that the biggest issue is that Gabs' character arc gets kind of ignored, disregarded. I don't know what the right word is, but you can't just go from her season 4 arc and the end of Ides of March to her stepping up for pregnant Xena and just being like a fighty killy machine without it being addressed. And it's not. When does it really get...
It gets addressed in season 6.
Yeah. So like season 5,
but
it's a
like
whole season.
An episode, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And we have like a whole season of this where she just comes back and she looks amazing. She's ready to fight. She's ready. But yeah, just hearing like, you know, these ideas of her, you know, being more influenced by Ares or that other one you were talking about.
Right, tempted to the dark side.
Like just, this is all part of like, you know, her hero's journey that she's on, and that would have been nice. So I get a little mad about that because I think you can't just like have such a big thing happen to her in the season 4 finale and then just kind of
Never
have a whole season of not being like, okay, that's fine now. Well, whatever.
Violence is great.
Woohoo!
I mean, my answer, honestly, is pretty similar to yours. I was thinking not exactly, like, in terms of Gabrielle's arc, but just looking at especially seasons 3 and 4, like, why were they so great? It's because they both had a kind of central idea about Xena and Gabrielle's relationship. You know, like, what stresses can we put on that relationship?
Yes.
What new things can those characters go through? Like, in season 3, it was about, like, literally putting them at odds with each other. In season 4, it was them being worried about whether they were on the same path.
Exactly.
I would have really loved to see, like, some similar overarching idea for season 5. Like, you know, how do you, now that you've decided you're on the same path, like, how do you negotiate that? Like, as you're saying, like, for Gabrielle, what would that mean? For, like, it would probably mean sacrificing certain ideas she had about herself in order to be with Xena, and for Xena, it would be what?
Right.
I think the show kind of lost that idea.
It did.
What, you know, of what those two characters go through together.
Right.
Like, I feel like, you know, I would have liked an arc that would have connected them more completely.
I am so much more shallow than you guys.
I just want better clothes.
I would change the pregnancy look. But basically, I think, I was just thinking about it as you guys were going on about the serious stuff. And I was like, does that mean that my change would be, like, to not have that woman do the costumes? Like, I think I would have, like, maybe hired a different costume
Not get
designer.
Nyla back.
Well,
How much is Peter paying you, Nyla?
So that's what I would have done because I just cannot handle her.
It was a lot of like punches because they had the new showrunners that didn't get it, and that really affected things. And while you're having that, where it doesn't really feel like the show you love, it's like doing all this stuff, at the same time, it doesn't look as good visually, literally. So I agree, and I know we're so mean and stuff, whatever, but like...
We were very nice to Jane Holland about that red cape Livy award.
Yeah.
She got one look good. One good Luke.
But I, like, that's all part of, it is a very serious answer, Vera, because it's part of the mise en scène of the show. Like, I am looking at this, and it looks dumb. It didn't look like this before. So it that kind of stuff is a big deal to me, I think. Like, costumes are literally what people are wearing. Like, a bad hat will take you right out of an amazing scene.
So
it's
true.
Important.
And also kill Virgil. Or at least gender swap him to be like Virgilia.
Virgil's fine. He's just there. Calm down.
Get him.
Okay, Katie, read our next question.
Tune My Art says, first, this might be getting into spoilers, but how would you rewrite the Eve storyline? Or would you rewrite it at all? I love S6 and the return to a character-based story centered around the Xena-Gabrielle dynamic. But I'm torn between, 1, bafflement that the show basically dropped Eve, and anything they might have done with her and her relationship with either Xena or Gabrielle, and 2, relief that the focus is back on Xena and Gabrielle after the strain that Season 5 put on their relationship. It sounds like you guys really love Eve, and as someone who's kind of on the fence about her, I'd be really interested to hear where you would have liked to see her character go.
We sort of already touched on this a little bit, that we were, eager to rewrite some of where Eve went in Season 6 and even a little bit in Season 5.
Yeah, definitely in Season 5.
Frustrated with what happens to her post seeing the light.
Right. I don't think that it should have been as dramatic a switch as, like, now you were evil, now you're good.
Well, it's what
Polar
Katie was
opposites.
saying about, like, having dark Xena fight light Xena. Like, they're not two different people.
Right.
Livia and Eve are not two different people.
She could see the light and go, oh, what have I done? Like how she did. But, like...
Maybe not quite like that.
Maybe not. But, like, she didn't have to, the next episode... immediately just, and then she is baptized and she's like, spiders! Like, it shouldn't be this way. Like, it should be a journey.
I think
kind of, like, diluted, like, maybe less so than Xena, because that's, like, a whole show, but definitely a journey of many episodes dealing with this.
I agree. Yeah, I think that it's one thing to present how she sort of becomes good again. Like, we have spoken many times about, like, loving the mix of religions in this show and stuff, and this finale basically just has her getting saved by Eli, and I think that that's fine. Like, it's great that it's in there, but just, like, having her struggle with it more would be good. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all. Like, I don't have a problem with this being how she kind of turns her life around. But I like conflict and struggle. And for her, it's just more like, this is who I am now. And also, that, like, prophecies kind of suck.
Yeah.
So
it takes away her free will. You feel like she becomes this agent of Eli in a way that literally just rewrites her character in a frustrating way.
Wouldn't it be interesting if she was, dealing with that prophecy, like...
In a more natural way. Imagine if she was, like, my favorite version of Eve is the... privileged prep school girl who is a party girl and is used to, like, kind of having shit handed to her and, like, being the best at everything. Yeah. And kind of finding out that she's the worst. Like, I think that is such a cool character. It's different from Xena. And, like, I think seeing, like, how a character like that would grow up, because that's such an immature person. Like, it would be cool to see that arc. Like, how someone learns to, like, be a serious person in the world. And, like, the prophecy could definitely play into that, because seeing someone struggle, like, seeing Eve struggle under the weight of that while still being this sort of, privileged Roman, I think that would have been really interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a kind of goes along with that question. Vera, you want to read? Fuck the Gods on Tumblr.
Gods. Hey, guys, I have a question for your next mailbag episode. If you were in charge of an Eve spinoff, Adrian has said there was a rumor they wanted to make one. That was in parentheses. What would it look like?
Whoa, that's amazing that they were trying to make an Eve spinoff.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that Rob was going for that.
Rob goes for everything.
Would it have been about spiders?
I fucking hope.
Even her spider friend.
Oh no! Oh my god.
Well, I guess like I've thought about this. I would have really liked it to be like more Rome based, because I think Rome is a really interesting place on Xena, and I think it would be cool to just have a whole show rather than like having this kind of nomadic format that bounces between places, to like really set it somewhere and like to set it in Rome and to like really deal kind of like Spartacus, like to deal with the Empire of Rome and having Eve within that like being this.
But I can also see her do the missionary stuff too, because she's supposed to be.
That's true. I guess I'm less into that. I'm less into like missionary Eve, because that like is so boring.
I want it to be Crab's Woman episode, Orange is the New Black, like you guys have been watching, where like she's
Don't out us.
Don't out us for watching Orange is the New
No, it's
Black.
fine. Lots of people watch
Yeah.
it.
How dare you.
I just gave up a long time ago, but that's different. She can be like her nice version of her, but like she gets arrested for something, and like then we get like good flashbacks. Only like good, like, because that's what the frustrating. I don't want a frustrating like bad flashbacks. Only good ones to like how she grew up and stuff, so you could see that.
Okay, that satisfies me with my role.
So then she's like struggling with her past and like her newfound goodness, and like has all these friends in jail.
I love it.
Okay, that's cool.
One other thing that I'd want definitely to feel like you need to do for the Eve spinoff is you have to hire Hudson. Like Hudson needs to be there.
She has to appear.
I don't know if she just like is like her like spirit guide who like appears to her in her head, or maybe like
What kind of Hudson? Which one? The angel?
I don't care for the angel so much. I think it should be Callisto. Maybe some like you could find like a halfway point. Like,
She doesn't know the other one. If anything, she would only know
Angel Callisto.
the angel. But you know what?
I'd
She doesn't know
want
any
like
of
a
them.
third one. I want like the like mix of them. I want a Callisto who's sort of seen the error of her ways, but still like has those memories of being who she is. Like maybe the angel, like that would return to her eventually, and then you could see that there in the performance. But yeah, I definitely want Hudson there, like advising her, and like you could ship them.
Oh my god!
That's all I want.
So many layers. That's like fucked up. I'm so into it. That's really cool. I would like a version where yes, it's in Rome. She doesn't know like Eli's religion, so she's like learning about it.
That's true.
So basically my point is that eventually I would like to see the Crusades start happening somehow.
I want that 1,000%.
And I need them to deal with like where quote unquote Christianity goes, you know.
I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely this is actually tying right into the next question.
Yeah. So that means that are they gonna go to like Israel or
I want to
whatnot,
see like
Jerusalem?
Constantinople.
Yeah.
I think that would be that to me seems like the next place in a way for Xena the show to go.
Yeah.
Wait, read the next question.
And that is
Okay.
Troy's question.
Yes.
So, each of you is in the writing room. I'm not asking you to change the final outcome. I would be the last person to ever suggest that. Oh, that's interesting, Troy. But I would like you to pick another milieu for the penultimate challenge. Where would Xena and Gabrielle go? And what ancient powers must they confront before they conclude the series in Japan? There are many choices. Roman pantheon, Egyptian, Celtic, Semitic, Babylonian, Sumerian, Eastern European, North African, Iranian, or even a final go-around on Dayhawk's own turf. As they say, the sky's the limit, but I'd love to hear your choices. For whatever it's worth, I vote for a reconstituted Olympus led by Nike. Shoes? And including gods we didn't see in the season 5 finale. A last gasp for Mount Olympus and polytheism before being swept aside by the new faiths and decision time for Ares and Aphrodite. I mean, Troy, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to see that, even though I hate the gods, and I'm so ready for them to be done. Like, get rid of gods en masse.
They're cool.
I love them.
I like them.
I don't.
But I want
like
to see Nike.
the
That's
plot.
cool. What's Nike's relationship with Xena? That could be very interesting.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, so now that I'm
Put Xena on a Wheaties box.
Okay, so now that I'm seeing this question, this is very specific. So, like, your ramblings before that were good are, like, a little different.
About the cruise. I was also thinking about that for Troy's question, which I was like, new cultures are cool, but why don't we just stick with Rome and kind of Western civilization and seeing where that goes? And I do think the Crusades and the fall of Rome would be the next place to go.
I think that, well, I always thought that would be like the ultimate sort of place to go. So like, yeah, I would have loved, especially like once you introduce like Eli and all that stuff and, Twilight and the trajectory of the show goes to kind of a more historical thing and how we see, like how you were mentioning how we're going to see like the different Roman emperors, like how we saw Augustus and like we will see somebody else. And ultimately, I would have loved to see the conclusion with Constantine and Constantinople and all that stuff, and converting that like a whole empire into monotheism, basically.
Yeah, and would like Xena be like leading the army of the Visigoths, taking like that would be cool. That would be interesting to see. Also, just like I love Troy's lists of different things, and I think of them like I would love to see like Persian Lukes. I think that would be cool. That's one Luke's. I'm going to reach for a coin.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's just so tempting, but always we circle to, it's going to be problematic.
But like in terms of like best Lukes, Persia.
Oh, we were talking about that Russia stuff earlier.
Yeah,
that's
Russia
true. The Russian steps looks.
Yeah.
I think I there was something similar earlier in a previous mailbag where I know that I said I wanted like more Egypt but gooder than
I think I agree with you as well.
Yes. I'm gonna throw a coin in for that.
Egypt is so huge that it's like kind of absurd that we only got like some ridiculous episodes about it.
They're pretty close.
It's so important, and I would have loved so much more in it.
Yeah.
And I would have wanted to see those gods. Yeah. And I also wanted, like, the Roman pantheon he mentions, I wanted them to be different people. Like, part of the season 5 that George Stratton said that Ares was living in Rome, but people know him as Mars.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
He said that?
He said that.
Was that sort of what we were supposed to meant to think?
I thought so, because if he's going around being like, I'm the god of war.
I think so.
But I would have liked
some material there, yeah.
I feel like it should just be a different person, though. Like, I feel like the Roman gods should be Roman gods, and the Greek gods should be Greek gods.
Fight.
Yeah, they could fight. One other thing that I remembered from the outline of the season 5 fake season was that there was going to be an episode that was like totally based on Minority Report, where the gods put Xena on trial for their future murder, which sounded really cool because that was supposed to be their bottle ep, So yeah.
Okay, yeah. Xena did it first.
Well, I don't know when.
Minority Report, maybe 2001.
Well, it's a book.
Isn't it? Probably. Is it a Philip K. Dick? It seems like it might be.
I'm sure it's a thing. Next question. Natalie writes, it became evident throughout this season that there wasn't going to be a happy ending for Xena, especially after every effort to secure a life and raise Eve still ended in tragedy. Do you think with everything that she's been through to redeem herself that she really deserved a happily ever after? Every so often we're reminded of the pain and death she caused. It's hard to sympathize with those who knew the Xena of, quote, old, when all we were mainly introduced to was the Xena of, quote, new. I know how I feel personally, but I want to see what you guys think. Season 5 ending with Eve not having a happy ending? Or the whole show?
I'm not sure I would have, seeing how things went down with Eve here, I wouldn't, I think, have immediately leapt to the idea that Xena wasn't going to get a happy ending. Because, for all the trials and tribulations with Eve, it is ending happy, Mm-hmm. This is the first time in 2 years where we've had a Xena finale that ended, with everything okay. So, I don't know. Of course, you could, if you kind of play the odds, you see, season 5 is ending happy. What does that mean for season 6? But I guess I don't really see what happened with Eve as being foretelling some future tragedy. I think what constitutes a happy ending, whether someone deserves one and what exactly that means. We've often talked about redemption, like this weighting those scales, and when the scales go, you're saved. I feel like that's very connected to this idea of like, I deserve to be happy because I'm good. But, is that a realistic way of looking at things? I think is a question we're going to be asking. This is very much a season 6 question. Yeah. I think we can all agree.
I think I'm trying to focus on the season 5 part, since like the question is sort of about stuff with Eve at the beginning here, and we're wrapping up season 5. There's a lot on Xena in terms of morality and religion and all that stuff that kind of muddies the water of like what the ultimate like answer that is being asked in this question that we just read, like, means. So, like I said earlier, like, for Eve, who is sort of this Xena 2.0 in a kind of way, doesn't have the same journey, but is presented as this person who has done all these horrible things. Her arc here that ends with this particular weird prophecy and her being kind of baptized into goodness and, following Eli, like that, maybe that works for her. And so that's one way of looking at this, like this, for this person, this is working and that feels good. I don't know what the idea of like, what does deserve means? Like who deserves what does that mean? I think that the ultimate thing that I always want to focus on is like, for the character, what do they think? Yeah. Like, and
what do they think they deserve?
Yeah, and so like we will get into that with Xena. I feel like lots of people can have all sorts of opinions based on what they think the show is saying, or your own judgments, or your own like particular thoughts about what it means to be deserving of a happy ending. But I think that,
and what that means, different people require different things for being happy. What does happiness for Xena look like? I think that's an important thing to consider when weighing this. I mean, I think people see a happy ending and often see like what would be happy for them, for the particular person framing the question.
Right.
And it's important to remember that like Xena may feel differently.
Exactly. So that's what I feel like is important to focus on, because again, at the end of the question, where you're saying like kind of as a viewer, it's hard to sympathize with people who think Xena's bad or whatever. I mean, we do see the things though. We get lots of flashbacks. We get lots of that throughout the show. So it's not like we never see old Xena. We see a lot of
but we're
of
definitely
her.
in,
but we are in, yeah.
We're asked to identify with Gabrielle, who really only sees the good in Xena for a long time. It takes her a long time to really appreciate who this, the entirety of this person.
Right. And I think that also just goes with like how the show develops as a show. It starts away and like gets, much more intense and much more dramatic and adult than where it kind of started. So. Yeah.
This is a huge question. I think definitely, Natalie, you could literally copy-paste this into an email and send it to us for our Season 6 mailbag, because it's obviously it's so integral to where things are going. And yeah, we're moving into that part of Xena Warrior podcast where we're beginning to seriously talk about, where the show ends, and that's one thing that we're
the thing that has all the bazillion pins pinned into it.
Yeah, we're gonna unpin some pins eventually. Yeah. So thank you very much for your question, and you will eventually get an answer. Unfortunately, I think we have so many more questions.
Yes.
We're moving out of season 5 now into a more sort of like general Xena questions and things other than Xena. We will, if you haven't heard your question answered, that's because it's in our second batch, and I think we're going to be getting to that next week.
We knew it at the beginning. We said it.
We're like, maybe it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen.
And that's great for everyone, because that's less weeks where there will not be an episode until remember November 5th.
So you can expect Mailbag Part 2 next week on Monday the 15th.
All right. Then you can also follow us on the things and the stuffs.
Oh, yeah. XenaWarriorPodcast.com. That is the website. Please go to there and find all the links to stuff. Look at all the quotes for the episodes. Good times had by all. We are on Apple Podcasts where you can like us there and, give stars, lots of them, 5. That's good. Rate and leave reviews. It helps people find the podcast, and we love reading them. We are on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod, on Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram, Xena Warrior Podcast.
The power.
The passion.
The podcast.